Eliza woke up one morning thinking everything was normal. However, as she looked out the window, she noticed something was off. There was no sound outside. Normally, she would hear the hum of cars and the chirping of birds in the early hours, but today, everything was silent. She checked the time, and to her shock, the clock read exactly 7 a.m. Not a minute had passed. This is strange, she thought. The fact that the time still showed 7 o'clock made her believe that the whole world had stopped. Eliza quickly moved around her room and realized everything seemed frozen. Her phone, the clock, the computer, everything was the same. The view outside was also just like it had been at the break of dawn. These were the first signs that time had disappeared. When she looked outside, everything seemed normal, but she could feel something was missing. There were no car sounds, no people walking, no movement at all. In that moment, she began to believe that time had truly been lost. But to fully understand what had happened, she knew she needed to investigate deeper. I need to figure this out, she thought. Eliza immediately called her old friend, Mark. Mark was someone who approached things scientifically and always provided logical solutions. With trust in him, Eliza grabbed the phone. Mark, something's really strange. It feels like time has stopped. The clock still says 7 o'clock and nothing is changing. Mark responded in shock. I never thought something like this could happen, but we need to start investigating this together. The next day, Eliza and Mark met up to discuss the situation and began going through old books, scientific articles, and writings on supernatural events. While delving into ancient writings at a library, Mark found a very old map related to the lost time. The map pointed to an area where time had vanished, and it was near Eliza City. This couldn't have been a coincidence. The map was tracing the path to a place that could hold the key to solving the mystery of lost time. If they found this place, they believed they could uncover the secret of time itself. This could be the source of the lost time, Mark said. Although Eliza felt uneasy, they decided to embark on the journey together. The map led them to an abandoned area, a place marked by the remnants of an ancient civilization from the past. But something was very strange. With every passing minute, Eliza felt more and more afraid. Eliza and Mark set off on their journey to find the location marked on the map. As they moved along the path, they began to feel time speeding up and slowing down in strange ways. Everything seemed to have a rhythm, but understanding this rhythm was difficult. While trying to make sense of time, they were also experiencing the excitement and fear of approaching this mysterious area. As they neared the region where time had disappeared, the duo came across an abandoned structure. The building seemed to have once been the center of a great civilization, but it had been left deserted over time. They decided to enter. As they stepped inside, they found some mysterious signs related to the lost time. Could this place hold the secret of time? Eliza said, "We need to understand what's happening here." But Mark grew more anxious with every passing minute. He sensed that something was wrong inside. Despite his fears, Eliza gathered her courage and moved forward. Would they be able to solve the mystery of the lost time? In the end, they would be forced to make a big decision. Would they bring time back? Or would they continue living with lost time? The answer to this question was in their hands. Eliza and Mark felt that time was playing strange tricks on them as they stepped into the abandoned structure. With every step they took, time seemed to accelerate or slow down. There was a rhythm to everything, but deciphering it proved to be difficult. As they moved forward, they were both trying to understand time while also feeling the excitement and fear of getting closer to this mysterious place. Approaching the area where time had been lost, they stumbled upon an abandoned building. The structure appeared to have once been the center of a great civilization, but over time, it had been left behind. They decided to enter. As they made their way inside, they began finding strange signs related to the lost time. Could this be the place where the secret of time was hidden? This must be the place where time was lost, Mark said, examining the ancient symbols around him. Eliza paused for a moment. But what if everything here is wrong? What if this lost time is something we can't control? She thought. Fear slowly began to settle in her heart, but she steeled herself and kept going. As they ventured deeper into the structure, they came across more inscriptions. This place could indeed be where time had gone missing. There was an ancient legend about time. Those who seek the secret of time lose themselves within the moments they try to find. Eliza and Mark decided to continue their research, hoping to unravel the mysteries of time. Eliza and Mark reached the heart of the ancient structure. In the center of the room stood a peculiar device, a mechanism that seemed to hum with energy. Strange symbols adorned its surface, glowing faintly. Mark examined it closely, his scientific curiosity piqued. "This must be the source of the time distortion," he said. Eliza, however, felt a deep unease. The device seemed alive, as though it was watching them. "Do you think we can fix time using this?" she asked nervously. Mark nodded. The inscription suggests that activating the device could restore time to its natural flow. But there's a risk. It might not work as intended. Or worse, it could cause even greater chaos. The two debated for what felt like hours, though they couldn't tell for sure in this strange, timeless place. Mark wanted to activate the device, confident in his logical analysis. Eliza, however, hesitated. What if tampering with it made things irreversible? What if they weren't meant to interfere? Finally, Eliza placed her hand on Mark's arm. "We came this far to understand time, not to control it. Let's think carefully before making any rash decisions." Mark took a deep breath. "You're right. But we can't leave without trying something. Time won't fix itself." With that, they carefully examined the controls, deciphering the glowing symbols. As Mark placed his hand on the central panel, the device began to hum louder. Lights spiraled upward, and the room was filled with an overwhelming energy. Time itself seemed to bend and twist around them. Eliza felt a surge of emotions, fear, hope, and determination. "Let's see if we can bring back what's been lost," she whispered. The room was engulfed in a blinding light, leaving them wondering if their choice would restore balance or shatter it forever. As the blinding light faded, Eliza and Mark found themselves standing in a landscape that felt both ancient and surreal. Time itself seemed to weave around them, fragments of past and future flashing briefly before vanishing like smoke. The device, now silent, stood behind them, but its energy still pulsed faintly in the air. Eliza looked at Mark, her voice trembling. "Did we succeed? Did time return to normal?" Mark scanned their surroundings, his analytical mind working rapidly. "We're still in some kind of temporal nexus. I think we're seeing the echoes of time trying to realign itself. But it's fragile. If we don't stabilize it soon, it could collapse entirely." The landscape shifted again, and suddenly they stood before a massive, ancient hourglass suspended in midair. Its sands seemed to flow upward and downward simultaneously, defying all logic. At its base, an inscription glowed faintly, written in the same symbols they had deciphered earlier. Mark stepped forward, translating aloud. "To restore what was broken, balance must be struck. A sacrifice made willingly will mend the flow of time." Eliza's heart sank. "A sacrifice? What does it mean? What kind of sacrifice?" Before Mark could answer, the hourglass began to shake, and its sand started to spill out, creating ripples that distorted the reality around them. A voice, soft but commanding, echoed in their minds. "One must remain within the void to preserve the balance. Choose, or time will choose for you." The weight of the moment pressed down on them. Eliza stared at Mark, panic and resolve battling within her. "It's asking for one of us," she said quietly. "One of us has to stay here forever." Mark's expression darkened, but he stepped closer to the hourglass. "This isn't just about us. It's about everyone everywhere. If staying here means saving the world, then I'll do it." "No," Eliza interrupted firmly. "You can't make that decision alone. We both came here. We'll figure out another way together." The ground trembled as the hourglass tilted further. Time was running out, literally. The choice was unavoidable, and its consequences were unfathomable. Together, they had to decide who would face the ultimate sacrifice for the sake of restoring balance to the world. The tremors grew stronger, and the hourglass emitted a deep, resonating hum that seemed to pierce through their very souls. The sands within swirled chaotically, as though reflecting the turmoil of the decision ahead. Eliza and Mark stood frozen, their eyes locked. Neither wanted to say it aloud, but both understood the weight of the moment. The world's survival hinged on their choice. Mark broke the silence first, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "Eliza, you're the one who saw this through from the beginning. You're stronger than you realize." Don't," Eliza cut him off, tears forming in her eyes. "This isn't about who's stronger or braver. We both matter, Mark. We're in this together." The voice returned, this time sharper, more insistent. "Decide now, or time will decide for you. The balance must be restored." A crack appeared at the base of the hourglass, and fragments of time itself, images of lives, moments, and futures, spilled out like shards of broken glass. If they delayed any longer, everything would shatter. Eliza took a deep breath, stepping closer to Mark. "If one of us stays, it has to be me. You've always believed in solutions, in fixing things. If you go back, you'll find a way to make sure this never happens again." Mark grabbed her hand tightly, his voice breaking.
"No, Eliza. You've been the heart of this journey. You've fought every step of the way.
The world needs people like you." The hourglass's hum turned into a deafening roar. The world around them began to dissolve, the edges of reality crumbling away. There was no time left. Without warning, Eliza smiled through her tears. "Mark, take care of them. Take care of the world." And before he could stop her, she stepped forward, her body dissolving into a cascade of light as she touched the hourglass. Mark screamed her name, reaching out, but it was too late. The hourglass stilled, its sands flowing smoothly once more. The cracks healed, and the tremors stopped. The balance had been restored. Mark found himself back in the library, the harrowing journey now a distant memory. Time ticked forward again, the world returning to its rhythm. But in his heart, a void remained, a reminder of the sacrifice Eliza had made to save them all. As he looked out the window, the rising sun painted the world in warm hues, signaling a new beginning. Mark whispered softly, "I'll make sure your sacrifice wasn't in vain, Eliza. I promise."